So now we'll go to posts. I'll reduce some of these columns so that the title has a bit more space here for you. So basically, to add a new post, you just click add new. In most cases, you're probably going to be copying from a Word doc. So one thing I'd say, don't paste directly. Often I don't start, even though this is the top, I often don't start at the top. Because when you paste into here, it doesn't look like this. It'll often bring in weird word styles and it just can look a bit odd. So often I will type, SEO's in the way, hang on. Okay. Often I'll type into my H1 first if I'm pasting, and then I'd copy that and paste up into the title. Then select what post type it is an article. You'll see here the fields change for you. Is it a resource? So your resources have download links. Is it a case study? A case study has this thing for the program that you've used. Because I thought we might want to link back. It's an easy sort of internal linking, but we'll have a look at that. Also, there's a lot more in the case studies in terms of having your outcomes, some different style of quotes and things like that. Leadership Insight at the moment is much the same as an article. Conversation is a bit different. I've separated here the conversation text, which could also be a transcript from a video that you've done, into part 1 and part 2. The reason for that is on the layout for this article type, there's a quote in the middle. So the only way to have text either side of it is to actually separate the text widget into 2. So that's why we've got part 1, part 2. There's a quote in between. Quote 2 for this article type appears on the side. Now, I think with some of these, as you're going through, you're going to suddenly realize, oh, we need a field for blah that we hadn't thought of before. So there'll be things where you suddenly realize you need an extra field and there's no way to put something. So I think when that comes up, make a note of it. And maybe even over the next week, as you're starting to add content, just keep a list and then send me one big list in one go if you can. And I'll go through and I'll just add extra fields for all the things that you need extra fields for. And likewise, if you notice that there's something under resource that you actually do also need under conversation, let me know and I'll change the visibility so that it displays for both. So that's the main thing. When you get to this page, you'll be confronted with all this SEO stuff first. Fold it up so it's not in your way. And here under settings is what you really want. So you select the article type, you go through and you start adding all the info about your article. If you're pasting from Word, click on this toolbar toggle to get more options, and click this clear formatting little eraser button. If you're pasting from Word, that'll get rid of your formatting. Another thing I noticed is if you're pasting bullets from Word, some of those styles are not going away even when you press clear formatting. So literally undo the bullets, redo the bullets, and it magically works. So who knows why, but that sorts that out. So for conversations, for example, there's no quote source because that doesn't seem to be coming through on those. But if you do decide that is something you want, just let me know. And also things like if you use it maybe for some articles, but not all, I can set the quote source in the actual template to hide. If there's nothing in this field on this page, I can make it hide in the end template so you just don't see that bit of text. All of this call to action stuff, this is for the banner at the bottom of the page, the same sort of banner that you see on all pages down the bottom. So this is an opportunity for you to add a title, some text. I wonder actually if we can just delete that text, if we just have the title and the button for these. But maybe have a think about it and let me know what you want. The image, so also for all of these, I've got a fallback. So if you don't enter text, it's the generic subscribe text. It's a generic image that we already use in a lot of the banners. It's a generic subscribe button. All of those things are sort of generic fallbacks in case, you know, you don't have anything. But if you do want to vary it, and you're going to want to vary it if you've got content that's specific to early career, for example, you might want people to join up to the early career program instead of just subscribing. So you can use this as an opportunity to drive that. Image caption, I've just plonked that in because there was an instance where there was a caption for an image and it was a featured image that has a caption. So I've got this space for it, but some of these things may need tweaking as we go. So sort of have a think about it as you're using it. If something doesn't make sense to you, ask me why I've plonked it in there. So this is literally, there's one article that's come through with a caption. So I've gone, well, we need a caption. So I've plonked that on. And that was for one of the conversations. But one other thing you'll notice is on the actual template. So just to show you, first of all, in here, you do have, sorry, I'm going ahead a bit. I'll just go through these first. You've got all this stuff down the side. These initial ones you don't really need to worry about. You probably need to worry, once you've published your article, you have an opportunity to change, or once you've saved it as draft, actually, even. If you save it as draft, you have an opportunity to generally change your permalink, which is your slug. So if you don't want the slug to be, for example, if you've got a title and you've got a lot of joining words in there, you might want to get rid of those in the slug. So you can come here and delete them and make it a bit more succinct. Google likes shorter links. So you want it to be keyword relevant, but shorter. You ideally want your keywords in the slug, in the H1, and in your H2s and H3s, if you can. So when you're adding text, like if you're pasting stuff in here, you can style these H2. That next is automatically paragraph, but you could decide you want that to be heading 3, and so on. This quote's a bit odd, but I have sort of styled it so that it'll appear a bit better should you decide to put a quote in there. Have a play and let me know. Back to down here, so your permalink. Categories are categories that are specific to posts. So anything you add here will be for posts only, so it won't cross-pollinate to events or to profiles. But so at the moment, we're not really using these. But what you do have instead, we've got topics, which is what I added yesterday with the reformatted resource section. Oh, annoyingly, that's not showing up properly. I'll work out why. And I'll come back to you. It's the same problem with career stage. But essentially, how that should show up with topics is when you click on featured content, for example, this is where you select feature on about page or whatever page you want that to go on. They're all in here. I've tried to stack them so it makes sense. So under launch, you're seeing the launch things. Unfortunately, I added them in order, but it's added them backwards. But I think it still makes enough sense to be fine. So those other ones, career stage and topics, will appear in the same way. I'm not quite sure why it's broken, so I just need to double check, but they should appear so that you can just click what those things are. And then they'll relate to a query that's pulling everything with, so at the moment it's journey stage. So at the moment, these are all stacked, but I'm going to have to pull them out again. I don't want to bore you with the details of why, but basically all of these need to be pulled back out into career stage. So they'll be separated, but for now, just tag everything and I'll go through and change them. Featured image. Now the featured image is what appears at the top of the screen. So you're going to want to set that. And again, when you click that, it opens the media library. You can go to upload, or you can, if you just drag something on top of media library, it uploads, so you don't have to click around necessarily. Or again, you can grab something from instant images.
Hey, Nick, is it possible to put like what the size is for that featured image? The suggested dimensions?
Um,
Or does it not matter? Because I don't want to like to choose an image and then have it not display. Like I saw some of the
for that
blog
spot,
posts,
it's
like
very
the,
small.
okay.
So the other thing I'd say about that is at the moment, if I open, can you see my new empty tab here?
Yeah.
Great. So at the moment, because I've got an extra image pulled into the article post, which I think is nice to have. But for now, it's also just a duplicate of the featured image. So it might be that you decide you want to get rid of it because it's too much work to find two images for things. It looks like too much repetition to have two images. Oh, that's a white paper. Hang on, sorry. Okay, I only just did this yesterday, so some of those aren't going to be great. I think this one will work. Oh, okay. So there's clearly a problem with that. So I'll fix that. So essentially what's happening is that featured image appears here, but in some of the templates, it also appears here. So for now, we've got an image here and an image there. And the reason I did that is because more images, data's shown that it makes it more readable, breaks up the text a bit. But at the same time, you might decide it's too much faff finding two images for everything. It's hard enough finding one. So maybe we delete that. I think sort of have a play around and see what works best. Another thing I'd say is for some of these, I'm trying to make it automatically color. So if you select, for example, early career, it would automatically color this red just because you've clicked that button. So you don't have to change anything on this. And it's also automatically putting in this image overlay for the red triangle. Based on, there's an image basically saved with the early career to say, this is the banner overlay for anything marked early career, whack this in. Right now, that's not always working. And the problem with it is because it can't tell, it's getting confused between something that's marked both journey stage and career stage. So the badge is going, like this whole thing is going, I don't know which one I should pull in. Should I pull in the red one or should I pull in the green one? And then it doesn't pull in anything at all. So that's why I'm separating them out again, basically. But some of these won't be quite right. So just know that I'm going through them and fixing that. But so don't worry too much. But essentially, the cool thing about this ultimately is that these should self-populate just from you clicking a button in the back end to say what career stage you want it to be. And that will associate with the color and with the image that goes with that. Likewise, the fallback image. So if you don't add an image, a featured image, it'll add an image sort of vaguely relevant. And this is the fallback subscribe info that you're getting if you don't put anything in.
If we were to remove the featured image to show up in the text, can we insert images within text?
Yeah.
Okay.
So if you're just adding your article in here, you can click this add media button and you get again taken to the library and you can just click on something. It automatically adds alt text for you, which is cool. So from an SEO point of view, well, less SEO, more just Google showing you're accessible. Google likes that, so it just does that for you. It also, the title, it sort of attributes it to the photographer.
Yeah.
So then that appears automatically within. And you can then select if you want that to be sort of aligned right with text wrapping around it. So you can sort of just adjust that by clicking on it. So often I would like that to go, for example, maybe right at the top left with the image wrapped around it. So if you put it before the text, basically, that's exactly what will happen there. Yeah, so it's pretty straightforward to dump an image in. And again, you could style something as a quote even, and it styles it slightly differently. I'm pretty sure I added some CSS to color that quote up and to style it similar to the other pull quotes, but just see what happens with it. I know a few things have changed, so some of the code, the sort of labels on the code have changed as well, so I need to go through and relink some things. Further down in the article, the other things you need to know, so things like quote 1 and the quote source are pretty obvious. Updated, I think this will be useful for you as you go through. Obviously you're updating articles anyway, but in terms of recycling content but showing you've still got stuff that's recent, updating is super easy. So if you've got a schedule set up where you go through old content, rehash it, make it a bit new, put an updated date on it, Google likes that. But also for your readers, something that might be originally dated 2021, but you can show it's actually updated last month. That shows relevancy as well. Reading time, Google really likes that, and so do readers now. It's showing it boosts conversion, particularly if something's not onerously long to read. So adding reading time in there is good. I'll send you a link for how to convert that.
Can we do what if it's a podcast and it's listening time?
Yeah, I could add an extra field for listening time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if it's a video for viewing time?
Yeah. Hang on, let me write that down.
And what I'm doing here as you're talking through this, Mel, for your benefit, I'm just fleshing out the, and also for you, Bridget, the content repository, which I've moved into the Future Impact website folder with these fields. So we're capturing in an Excel spreadsheet, everything that we need to then put into this back end. And I'll get Tracy to start working on that from all the Learning Hub pages to start with, at least putting in the links and the titles in there. So Mel, I'll get you to check that I'm capturing everything in this repository that's going to give you what you need to then put it in this back end.
Yeah, and the Learning Hub is that page we talked about, Nick, that is the private page,
Yeah, the private page
that we still have to kind of, the one you designed was that layout was perfect. We just need to have a template for it to.
Yeah, so that's still there. So what I'll do, I'll send you that link maybe so you can find it. And then we can make changes to it. So I think the title is something like -private page at the moment. So it's totally weird. So a lot of these we'll be going through at the end, I think, and just checking all the permalinks. And we'll also want to double check all of your keywords. I think, I think at the moment, the focus should be just whacking the content in there, which is what you've been doing. And then maybe we look at the keywords later on. I mean, you do have that keyword document. So if you want to refer to that as you go, the key thing really is to make sure you've got keywords in the permalink, the page title, the H1. You also ideally want your page title and your H1 to be different. So actually, when I said here that sometimes I put it in here and then I copy and paste it to there, realistically, that's just to be fast. And you are going to do that a lot. And I know I am totally guilty of doing that all the time just to be lazy. But the reality is Google likes these to be different. The H1 title can be a maximum of 70 characters. And this field actually won't let you type more than 70 characters. So I've put a limit on that for you so that you'll automatically know this has to be shorter than that. But this title should be 60 characters. So it's even shorter again. So it's a good way to make that, you know, if your title is like blah, 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 a guide, lose the guide for the shorter title. There are easy ways of sort of reformatting it so it's a bit shorter. And it's this one up the top that's the title that's appearing in the listing grids. So when you've got the grid of lots of articles, it's this title that's appearing there, not the H1. But for Google, try to keep them different if you can. But obviously we're all going to be lazy too, so I understand. So I think that's all you need to know for posts.
Can we create new post types?
So let me show you that. Yeah, so if you need a new post type, you would put that here.
Okay, great.
And you could just add it there. So the only thing that you might want to keep in mind, so let's say you add one specific for video. The slug needs to be all lowercase, and as it tells you here, all lowercase contain only letters, numbers, blah, blah. So now you've got one called video. The only thing is we haven't told the content engine what to do with things called video. So, you know, you might create video here, but I need to add a template that says sort of what to do. So when you're in here creating a new post, just because you've added it here, what you'll quickly realize is that there's no post type up here. I just realized something else I haven't shown you. So up here, video hasn't appeared up here because I've not added it to the custom post type. So basically these up here are what dictate what fields you see and what you're filling in for that article, so that you're not seeing. The reason for that is that otherwise you would see every single field for every article type, and you'd be going through here, why am I seeing outcomes and this is an article and it's driving me crazy because I'm seeing a million fields. So basically what this does is it just lets you see only what you need to see to fill in the article. But down the side here, post type here is what populates in the template and says, oh, this template. So for example, there's a specific template that shows articles, and that's the template that has the author down the side. And there's a different template. Sorry, Layla's just joined on another device. There's a different template then that shows podcast overviews, for example, which don't have the author down the side, but it's got the quote in the middle. Or maybe conversation.
Maybe we just need to determine what post types we would have, because for instance, the way I would imagine like podcasts and book reviews, you'd want to look slightly different to the other templates because you'd want to be able to have an image of the cover of the book on like the right where you would normally have author title, and then just a little blurb. Do you know what I mean? So like differentiating the post types.
Yeah.
I
agree. I'm actually just going, that's what I'm just looking at right now as we're talking. And so I'm putting that there for you, Mel, so you can
just if we think of the event, because I would imagine like podcast and book could be the same template, but you'd want it to look a little bit different to the others.
Yeah, or it might even be that some of these are a shared template, but I've got visibility set up for the field that says if this is post type podcast, show this field, otherwise hide it. And you know that can go through for all of those, but they're all using a shared template.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's just a matter of me telling them what to do, basically.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I'll
just do a list of that.
Do a list. Yeah.
Yeah, but essentially all of this, once that's set up, then you just. So what you saw in that taxonomy, the things you can add is you could add video and mark that as a video. But the rest of this doesn't yet know that, and the template doesn't yet know that it's what to do with a video or where it displays. So as you add things, just let me know, and let me know why it's different and what I might need to tweak on a template to make that visible the way we want it to show. So the only other thing that's cool that you'll want to see here is for all articles, all of these post types, they can connect to an event and they can also connect to an author, which can also actually, I should change that to profiles because
Can they connect to another page? So I'm just working on the program pages now. And so for the program page on adaptive leadership, for example, it'd be good to just have adaptive leadership resources and content on that page for the
so that's different to this. So that's driven by a query that says on this page, pull in articles that are at career stage here, and that are also article type resource, for example, and show only 3. So that'll be the query, or the query will say, so for example, for events on early career program, I've got that set to show all events instead of just 3. So that's why you're seeing lots there. But that query is saying anything marked event and anything marked career stage, early career, pull those into this slot here.
And can we add another query for topic?
Yeah, you can add as many queries as you, there's already like 30 queries or 40 queries, there's a lot. But essentially what this means is a lot of the listings are a shared listing, so the shared section template that are just pulling in different queries that affect how that template is displayed, basically. So the queries are really just the logic that helps you know what's coming in. So just let me know what else you need added and I can just sort that out. And it might even be tweaking a template that already exists. So one thing, Mel, that you mentioned the other day is having a shared listing that brings in both an event and a resource and I think a case study. So that just needs a query that says, I don't know if I can do it to say bring in one of these, but it can say bring in all 3 of these post types because these are shared taxonomies. So it can say bring in all of these, but only show 3 of them, which means it's up to you guys to go, we can't mark more than 3, or, you know, if you mark 5, only the 3 most recent are going to be the ones that show up, basically. So sort of it's up to you to know what you want to display and not display, and you can toggle them on and off, if that makes sense. But there are articles, for example, where you're advertising an event from the article. So let me think, can I quickly see one? Maybe even this one. No, sorry, I could be digging around to find it, so I won't do that. But basically how I've set that up is if we've got an article that's linked to an event, and you're going to have that, you're going to have, you know, we're talking about this event that's coming up soon. It's another way of advertising it. At the bottom of that article, it automatically populates with a little listing for the event so that someone can then click and sign up. So it's got the event image, a little event blurb, and a register here that then takes them through to the event page. And to connect that, you'd go connect event. You can select event that already exists, or you can just, you know, they're going to get to a point where there are a gazillion. So you just start typing and you select what you want, and that connects it to this article. So then it'll say, when this article appears, it's saying for this article, also populate with related events. If you've related an event, that will populate at the bottom of the article. If you haven't related an event, I've told it, if there is no event related to this article, do not display this section. So then it just hides. Then we've got author, which actually is profiles. I'm pretty sure this is the same for everything, so I should probably change it. You can go in here and type your name, connect author. It brings you up this bit, which is really what you need for somebody who hasn't been uploaded. So that's kind of annoying. So you would actually close it. But now you can see Yolanda is connected. And if you wanted to add a new profile, you can just click add new and start adding them there. But I find it goes a bit odd from here. So I wouldn't connect a new one from here. I'll show you how to connect a new one from the profile section, but to connect someone that already exists. And essentially these profiles, so that's leadership insight. If this was, I'll show you what this looks like from, I think actually it probably is fine for this to be author here because it is generally authors for the articles. It's when you get to events and you're looking at bringing in speakers and mentors and stuff that this behaves slightly differently. So we'll go back to that now. So if we go to events,